Bombs away in Cincinnati as we come to you after the Tigers, which really they scraped by the Reds. Like this was absolutely not a game that was handed to them. Um, but the bombs were there, and this was a completely entertaining game. Nobody said it wasn't going to be, and it was so fun to watch. And you know, I'm not sure how I feel on these Apple TV Plus games, but commentary today was a little bit one sided, and we're here to bring biased coverage in the other direction. Um, it was a completely fun game, and if you didn't watch, there's one word to sum up this game, and that'd be fun. Like that's all it was. Elly De La Cruz, the Tigers tried to limit his impact on the game, but he still got on base 3 times. He still made ridiculous plays in the outfield. He was in the outfield, in the field. He was extremely fast. And this is my first topic. I am scared of Elly De La Cruz. The Tigers were able to scrape by today, but you know, if this problem, quote unquote problem, persists, I'd be kind of scared of Elly De La Cruz in the future in this series, just because of what he's able to do and how he's able to affect pitchers, and it's scary. Like the level that Elly De La Cruz is on right now is something we have not seen in a long time, and that is scary. That is scary as a Tigers fan, because that sometimes this team does not live up to their expectations, and sometimes when they play really big teams or really big players, they just fold. And Elly De La Cruz is one of those. He is an absolute star. He is everything that he was described to be last year. Like he brings everything to the table that you think he brings to the table. Like he's a great hitter. He's been okay in the field. The DRS number's not there, but I mean, he can make plays that are completely ridiculous. It's kind of like Javier Baez, where he can make really good plays and his range is probably higher. But overall, as a defensive player, I mean, you might want somebody else just because there's some weaknesses in the game. Like the arm strength is there, but the arm accuracy might not be there, and he might be clumsy and make some plays he probably shouldn't, which causes him to be not the full-fledged player that he was supposed to be, but he's pretty dang close. And if you're the Detroit Tigers, you are scared because he's one of the best players. Will be one of the best players in the league, I should say that. And he has all of the tools right now. He just needs to put everything together. But the Tigers didn't really care about that when they were up to the plate, because Elly De La Cruz is not pitching, and frankly, it was bombs away in Cincinnati. It was a complete light show, and we saw some guys hit home runs that I did not think were going to hit. Colt Keith had 2 on the day, and I have kind of dogged on Colt Keith in the past. I apologize, and I retract every single statement that I have made about Colt Keith that might have been slightly negative. It is not true in the slightest. Like Colt Keith is, and you know what? I'm actually going to start here. I put this as the caption. I put Colt Keith is hot, and then I asked Steele as a question mark, because the Tigers signed Colt Keith to a very, very, very large extension this offseason, and wanted to lock him up for a long time, and that was a question to a lot of fans because he had never played in the MLB before. And Apple TV showed a stat today that I thought was kind of interesting. The 4 largest contracts, extensions, I guess, before a player hasn't played in the MLB, it was Jackson Chourio, it was Luis Robert, and it was Eloy Jimenez. Those are the only 3 players, or those are the only 3 players at that magnitude before Colt Keith for that to happen. But I'm going to go out there. I'm going to say it's a steal. Because Colt Keith, and this is supposed to be a developmental year. This is not supposed to be, his big year, I guess. But he has looked completely amazing since the month of May. He has absolutely cut down. And the biggest question for me for Colt Keith was, the fielding has always kind of been a question. Like, I mean, it's never been bad, and it's never been, to the levels that we've seen some other players play defensively on this team. But I kind of had questions about it, and he was supposed to be a decent defensive player, but he's been really good, and from the plate he has been even better in the last 7 games. He's hitting 233 from the plate, 258 on base percentage. You're like, okay, what is this kid talking about? Like, why is this? He has a 600 slug That's ridiculous if you're Colt Keith. I mean, 7 hits, 3 of which are home runs. You have 5 RBIs. You've only struck out 6 times, and you've got 9. I mean, you walked once, but for a guy like Colt Keith, the power has kind of came out of nowhere. Like a 415-foot bomb. If you told me that was going to happen, I mean, even a week ago, I would have told you no. Because, I mean, Colt Keith just wasn't that guy in my eyes. And in the last 15 games, I'm getting all these stats from MLB.com, by the way. In the last 15 games, I mean, you could arguably say he's looked even better. The on-base percentage is at 302, and the slug is at 533. You know, they're just this Tigers lineup in general has been shaping out a lot of players to be a lot better than you think they're going to be, right? And Colt Keith was a guy, I guess my projection for him, and we didn't do this podcast at the beginning of the season. We kind of picked it up middle of the season. It didn't really get time to do projections, but if I did do projections, I would have had Colt Keith at a 220 batting average, maybe a 600, 620 OPS. A guy that can get on base. I didn't think the slug was going to be there like it is, but he has 7 home runs on the year. He's got 28 ribbies. He's batting 240 on the year and 646 OPS. But keep in mind that number is steady on the rise because his slug, it's going up at a ridiculous rate. And this is the first Tigers hitter, and I'm going to say this, and hope nobody gets mad about what I'm saying. This is the first Tigers hitter in a while that we have seen progress very fast. Like, I'm just going to go through his splits each month, right? Talking about slug. In March, he had a 091 slug, which isn't great. April had a 175. And then since May, it's been up from there. The June number is lower than you would want it to be, but overall, it's been solid. He had a 493 slug in May. He had a 329 slug in June, and then obviously the early bit we are into July, he has a 1,000 slug and a 1389 OPS. I'm not a guy to delve deep in. I am a guy to delve deep into stats. That was a complete lie. I love Colt. I love Colt Keith, and seeing him have a day like this where he can hit 2 bombs against a team that's solid in pitching and has a really, really, really good home atmosphere. Like, they were packing it into Great American Ballpark today, and I was shocked. I was completely shocked because if you look at a Tigers game in the same time frame, I mean, you're probably at like 60% attendance. Your upper deck seats are probably not very filled. Your lower deck is probably 70% filled. Maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, flexible with that number, but Colt Keith has been amazing. And I want to say it very frank. He's going to be somebody the Tigers are going to build around and are going to have a lot of hope that he can be a very good all-star caliber player because he has been that over the past 2 months. I think if you neglect, March and April, where he was kind of figuring out Major League hitting, and I'll admit I was worried. Like, I didn't think, and I guess this happens with a lot of prospects. You see how good they are in the minors, and you expect them to adjust to Major League pitching so quickly. But I think Colt Keith is a really good answer to that problem, where guys don't really have to necessarily adjust very fast. Like, I mean, Colt Keith took a couple of months. I think Malloy's going to take a couple of months, but he's showing that you don't have to lose faith in a guy like him. And, Evan Petzold just came out with a tweet. Colt Keith just had a quote on Riley Greene's influence that I thought was important to talk about. And quote, we talk a lot about approach and swings and mechanics and stuff like that. When I got up to the big leagues, I felt like I lost everything in my swing. I felt lost. He's a guy who's helped me build me back to where my swing was last year. And I think that's an important point because a lot of times when you start to face MLB pitching, you try to over-adjust. And that's a common theme, right? Parker Meadows has obviously struggled. He obviously had over-adjusted, went down to AAA, fixed some problems, came back, and he's fine. But I think a guy like Riley Greene, which is crazy because he is so young, but he is just so talented that he kind of gives a veteran presence on this team. Like, I feel like he has been more of a mentor to younger players than like a guy like Mark Hanna has, or, I mean, you don't really have very many quote unquote older players. Like, I mean, I guess you have Kinstry and Rogers and Kelly, but nobody's old. Mark Cannon is the only guy that's like, significantly old at 35, but you have a lot of guys that look up to Riley Greene, and maybe we should make him the hitting coach because I am absolutely not complaining with what he has done with Colt Keith. I mean, the 600 slug in the past 7 games, I'm absolutely not complaining if I'm Colt Keith. And this was just an amazing game overall because you did have a Riley Greene homer, which is his 17th on the year. Um, should be in the home run derby instead of Alec Bohm, but that's just my opinion. Um, yeah, Riley Greene's another guy. Looked great. 266 average on the season, 868 OPS, which is significantly higher than earlier in the season and significantly higher than, you know, past years with the team. Like 683 in 2022, 796 in his short in 2023 season. He's progressing at a very solid rate, and I think Parker Meadows is too. He was the other guy that hit a bomb today. I mean, it just kind of seems like balls. It seemed like balls were flying off Tigers' bats today. Like, I mean, it was ridiculous to see. And um, well, here's another tweet I'm going to talk about. Evan Petzoid, he does great work. Quoted Riley Greene. I'm talking about Colt Keith as saying, "Yeah, I'll throw something out there every once in a while, but he's pretty close to the hitting guys, and the hitting guys know what they're doing. He's kind of just doing his thing, and it's working." And I think that's an important sentiment because we've seen guys like Torkelson struggle, and I think that might be because he's so adamant about keeping his swing how his swing is, and the adjustments haven't been made very fast. They've been made. Like, I'm not saying Spencer Torkelson is completely uncoachable and won't listen to anything a coach will say. It takes a minute, and I think Colt Keith is a very, very, very coachable player, and even if he doesn't pan out to the level that we hope he's going to pan out, he's always going to be a major league player just because he is so coachable and he is so ready to change his swing and he is so ready to ask questions and talk to other players. There is so much you can say about Colt Keith, and I am so excited to have him as a part of the Tigers organization. There's absolutely nobody else in the organization I would have rather had up than Colt Keith, and frankly, he was a steal. And that 2020 draft is so weird just looking back, but being a fifth round pick, being the 132nd guy in your draft class, I mean, still you're going to be looked at as a high prospect in your franchise, but it's not an easy road. Like, it wasn't handed to Colt Keith, and he put his head down and grinded. He's 22 years old and he's in the MLB. Like, this is a great player we're talking about, but absolutely bombs in Cincinnati. And hopefully we can keep that up throughout the series because, Parker Meadows is going to be back for this whole series, and Akil Baddoo got sent down, which I hate to say this. That might be the last we saw of Akil Baddoo in a Tigers uniform, or maybe even a Major League uniform at that. He's just struggled, and I don't know if he has the tools anymore to be a Major League player. He had his Linsanity run after the Rule 5 draft, and he was fun to watch, and he still is fun to watch. I think he still does have that flair that a lot of these star young rookie players have, but that comes with the price of a 100 batting average and just all around struggles for Baddoo. And he's fast, he's decent in the field, but doesn't bring enough of the MLB level for them to keep him. And Parker Meadows, has had a significant impact Toledo, so it was no question he was going to be back. It was just a matter of when. And he is absolutely back, and he wanted it to be known. First at bat, he was back. Hit the homer. Didn't get on base for the rest of the game, but I mean, still a 1-for-4 performance with Parker Meadows with a home run is a lot better than earlier in the season. Like his batting average was sub 100. He has broke the 100 barrier on his batting average. I think it's going to take a minute for his stats to adjust. It's fair to say he didn't have a long season this year in the major leagues. Like he had less than 80 at bats. He had less than 75 at bats, and a very small sample size. So it is very fair to say that maybe his struggles. I mean, yes, they were an immediate problem, but maybe it wasn't you know, as big of a problem as people say. Um, but I think, wow, man, got an itchy back. Um, I just think I think Meadows is going to be so great for this offense because, and it's really been an up and down year. Like you've had Baez good runs, you've had Baez bad runs, you've had Veerling good runs, you've had Veerling mid run. I wouldn't say he's ever had a bad run. But you've had guys that have had up and downs, and that's kind of how the season goes. Like, I mean, you're never going to have a guy that hits 1 for 4 every night, and today he's going to get a single, and tomorrow he's going to get a double, and the day after he might get a triple. Like that. I mean, that's just not how this league works. Like you're going to get barreled sometimes, and you're going to have quote unquote slumps. Like you might go 5, 6 games without getting a hit. And that's just how it is. As a major league hitter. But Parker Meadows, and I said the same thing about Colt Keith. He's a guy who can, suck that up and take that to his advantage. See what pitchers are doing against him and adjust. And I was kind of saying earlier how I didn't really like how we were progressing young players. I think the work done in Toledo with AAA hitters has been great because you have sent guys down there throughout the entire season, and they've came back better. With the exception of Akil Baddoo, probably is the only guy that I would say got worse. I really do miss Buddy Kennedy. You frankly think about him a lot and how he would probably still be, contributing to this offense at a major league level. Keston Hiura also got called up to the major leagues, by the way. Even though he was kind of dwindling in AAA for us, but glad to see him get his opportunity. It seems like, guys will get their opportunity after they leave Detroit, which is fair enough because we're kind of at a log jam because you have a lot of guys. You don't have you have a few really high level guys, right? Position players. But past that, you have a ton of guys competing for the same spots, and they're kind of all in the same scenario where, like, oh, you might be on, but like the OPS is like just below 700, and like you're almost playable, but it's hard to wear that. So you're really in a logjam if you're the Tigers, and I mean especially in the bullpen too. And we're gonna take a break here, get a word from our sponsors, and then we're gonna talk about this bullpen. Yeah, thank you for that word from our sponsors. And I'm back. We're going to talk about the bullpen. And to be frank, and we mentioned this the last time, like since June 20th, they have been the worst bullpen ERA. It's been tragic to watch, really, how bad this bullpen is. But it was scary again tonight because you saw Jason Foley come in what was a high leverage situation, what was a safe situation, give up 2 runs. The first run, okay, that's Elly De La Cruz. He was probably going to score anyway. My thought when he was on third, I'm like, okay, he's going to score no matter what. I mean, ground ball, he's going home and he's scoring. Fly ball, he's going home and he's scoring. Single, he's going home and he's scoring. Like, the only way he doesn't score there is a strikeout. And I was fine with that. And then the Reds started to build in the inning, and then, you kind of get into the situation where you think, are we going to lose this game right now? I mean, we were up 5-2 before the bottom of the ninth, but heading into that last batter, I have almost lost faith in this bullpen. Like, I mean, Jason Foley in April was absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think we will ever, say Jason Foley's a bad player because he's not. Like, he's frankly one of the best players in the bullpen, but in high leverage situations, pretty much everybody in this bullpen has struggled. Like, Vest was decent today. Chafin has kind of gotten back to his old self. Chris Castellani noted that, he's had 7 scoreless outings in a row after kind of struggling throughout the year, and his ERA is still a little bit inflated. But I think Chafin is getting back to a place where he can be reliable. But who else do you have in that bullpen? Bo Brisket had a really good June, struggled out to start this month. Will Vest has been on and off. Joey Wentz has not really been reliable. Tyler Holton is not the pitcher that he once was. It's scary to watch, frankly. I mean, that's all it is. Because you have so many guys that can make an impact and have in the past. Like Tyler Holton, in my opinion, was one of the best relievers in baseball. Like I think he should have won AL Rookie of the Year last year if it weren't, if it weren't for other competitors who had an absolutely ridiculous rookie year. But I thought he was really solid out of that bullpen. I mean he was a specialist guy, throughout the season, but then kind of evolved into a guy that, oh, nobody can hit him. Not righties, not lefties. Like he had stuff and he had confidence out the wazoo and control and I mean literally everything you look for in a relief pitcher. And that was ridiculous to see, but that's not the 2024 Tyler Holton, right? Will Vest has been better than last year, but I mean still not amazing. And you don't know what you're really going to get out of this bullpen. And I think it's moments like these where we have to praise our starting rotation. Like Reese Olson today was really solid. Ended up giving 2 runs, um, and was 1 out away from that quality start. But overall was solid. I think he only gave up 4 hits and had what I thought was a solid day in the mound. But it's just hard. You can't really trust this bullpen like you used to. Okay, 5-2 game. Jason Foley coming in a month ago, I would have said, yeah, we win that game. It's the Reds. I don't care. It's against the Reds. I mean, we won that game. Jason Foley is elite. He doesn't blow saves that are 3 runs, but he did today. And I guess my question I want to ask for the class, just the audience in general, is it a is it a problem? What do we do to address this problem? How can the Tigers move on from this? Right? Because Hinch isn't the guy to throw a starting pitcher out there for 7-8 innings, right? I mean, unless you're like 70 pitches deep going into the 7th inning, like you probably have no chance at the 8th. And I don't know. I don't know where we go from here, right? Because internally, there's no guys that you really want to promote. I mean, you look down in Toledo, you can pick your choice of guys, but there's nobody that you can really trust and truly rely on. I mean, you got Faedo back. You got a ton of guys who have just been in and out of the rotation. You just don't really have one guy you can rely on like Foley used to be. And Lang is gone. Like Lang he's not playing until next year. Horrific injury, had an incident at the major league level. And I still think he's a very solid pitcher. And he's a good guy too. But I don't know what we're gonna see out of this. Wow. I don't know what we're gonna see out of this. Tigers bullpen in the near future. So I guess it's come see come saw, and we'll have to address it when we have to address it. Like it's not like we're in contention right now, and this is a big problem. It's you're struggling to even be top 3 in your division race, and will probably have no chance of the wild card. Probably won't finish with a 500 record, and you're just a struggling team, and the bullpen is a part of that. And frankly, another guy who struggled is Ryan Kryler. And I put in this caption, I put Ryan Kryler next to Toledo because it's true. Had a great game today, 0 for 4. Had another defensive mishap, and it's so hard to watch. Oh, and I want to say this, by the way, before I move on from the bullpen. Carson Kelly absolutely deserves so much praise for that game-saving play because, if he does not make that play there, we're talking about the Tigers losing to the Reds in a walk-off fashion. But, I thought Ryan Kryler would be okay. And I guess there were people saying that, he's going to be better than Baez on all levels, and he's going to be the Baez replacement and whatever. We called him up, and he didn't make an immediate impact. He didn't make an impact after that. He didn't adjust after that. And that's why I put he's next to Toledo. Like, he's not going to be here for long, and he's not going to be in the Detroit MLB organization for long. And, he hasn't made an impact in any part of baseball. Like base running, he hasn't been great. Fielding, he has a mishap every game, and you know, hitting, you could probably throw a bowling ball out there and he couldn't touch it with a bowling pin. I mean, it's ridiculous what he's doing at the plate, and I don't know. I guess this is just a middling team struggles. Like you're gonna have guys who are on your major league team who are not amazing, and Ryan Kreidler, one of those guys. But I think once Baez gets out of his rehab assignment and is back in the major leagues, he also had a home run today. Javier Baez did in AAA. I think once Baez is back in the MLB, we're never going to see Ryan Kreidler in the Tigers uniform again. I don't care how good he does in AAA. I mean, this stint was so laughable. He might honestly, I mean, he might be a free agent before the end of the season, and that's not ridiculous to think about because I mean, the Tigers probably find no value in him, and what other team is going to, pick him up and find value in that? Like, I mean, you don't have very many suitors. Like, I mean, you're not going to trade him for a prospect. That's for dang sure. And, just a decent amount of guys in this roster that I think should be in Toledo. Akil Baddoo is one of them. He's down there. Parker Meadows is back. I don't know if I don't think Torkelson will be back soon, but the Tigers scraped by today. It was close. 5-4 win. Of course, Elly De La Cruz is in the title because he's scary. It's scary to watch. It's scary to watch Elly De La Cruz play baseball against your favorite team. It's not fun. It's not fun. When you're watching him against a division rival, it's all fun and games. When he steals home plate. But when he plays against your favorite team, it ain't as fun anymore. It ain't as fun to watch. But yeah, that's all we had for you today. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to give us a subscribe. I really prefer just a comment or a review, just letting me know how I'm doing, letting us in general know how we're doing. We want to make this the best show for you, and if nobody's enjoying it, then what's the point of even doing it? I don't do it for my enjoyment. I do it for you guys. And, we will be back tomorrow. Hopefully we're talking another Tigers win, but maybe Elly De La Cruz goes for the home run cycle. Just throwing that out there. And the Tigers might lose by a lot tomorrow. You never know. But that was all we had for you today. We'll be back tomorrow.